Hey, Shalithi and Nicole and Nickie Brown here, no matter where you are and what part of the world you're in. I hope that you're having a good day. So, I wanted to share a statement that comes from Dr. Timothy Legg, who has a PhD in psychology. And he says some anger issues may stem from another health condition or disorder. Treating the underlying condition may help reduce uncontrollable anger. So, what I would say to that is a lot of the underlying issues or disorders stem from childhood, and people don't realize that. They just think, oh, I experienced that growing up, but I turned out all right. But maybe not so much. And they don't acknowledge the fact that they need to heal. Some of the causes of anger: depression. A lot of people were depressed children because they did not get enough love and affection from their parents, or they had an absent parent, whether it was by choice, by force, or by, because the person passed away. It doesn't necessarily matter what the reason is. It just manifests itself in this person's life as depression, which can turn into anger at some point. Alcoholism. A lot of times people turn to alcohol to numb the pain of what they're feeling because they don't acknowledge what they're feeling and they don't talk about it to anybody, and so it just turns into drug or alcohol use. Anger can be suppressed in some people. So some people do their best not to be angry or to pretend that they're not angry, and some people are outwardly angry. Like the movie John Q. He went to the military, but he went through a lot growing up, and he didn't get help for it, and so it manifested into anger. Just think of that movie as an example. A lot of young boys and young girls were touched by adults that they felt they should have been able to trust, who should have loved them, who should have cared for them and nurtured them, and not, put their hands on them in that way, in a way that they weren't even ready to experience. Like they lost their innocence to someone who just wanted to, get some gratification. But the reality is somebody probably did it to them. And I always refer to the R. Kelly situation. It was done to him. It doesn't matter that it was women. He was still at an age where he was not ready for that. And I know someone who, at a certain age, I think 9, his brother got him a prostitute for his birthday. Again, men may think that that's macho or that's cool, but it's not, because he was not ready for that. And that person to this day has severe anger issues to the point of being abusive and thinking that, infidelity is okay. Because these people are seeking happiness from outside of themselves when you can only make yourself happy. But they think by having, multiple partners that they're going to get this satisfaction. But it's just the thrill of the chase and the hunt But once they get it, they don't appreciate it because that's not what they need. What they need is counseling or some type of therapy for their fear of rejection, their abandonment issues from a parent who was not there and was not in their life. But they don't know that. They think, oh, well, I grew up in a certain environment, so it's okay for me to be angry. No, it's not. Or I went through this and I turned out okay. But no, you didn't. You didn't. Now, what happens is the body keeps the score, right? So when we hold on to, someone used to say to me, when you hold on to stuff, it makes you sick. And I didn't understand that as a child. I was like, sick? I don't have a cold. Like, what are you talking about? I don't have to say whatever to my mom for me not to get a cold. I don't know what you're talking about. But it's a mental and emotional sickness, right? And the body keeps the score. That's a book. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. So when you're holding on to this mental and emotional pain, it turns into physical pain. It turns into dis-ease because you are not at ease. You are in a constant state of stress, a constant state of fear. And most people don't know that. And it's unfortunate because, again, many people will leave here not getting the help that they need to become healthy and to have good relationships. They will gravitate towards people that they have trauma bonds with, right? And they get into these relationships with people who experience the same type of traumas that they experience. And because they can relate, they feel like they have a connection. And because they're attracted to one another, they feel like they have chemistry. And it's a horrible, horrible relationship. People can feel hopeless, even if they don't say that. Most people are not going to tell you how they feel, especially men, because more men are taught to hold back their feelings than women. But women are also taught that. Get up, don't cry, don't be a bitch, or don't be a punk bitch, or whatever it is. There are girls who experience the same thing that boys experience. This is just the pattern of a broken home. It's really not gender specific, as some people would like to think that it is. Everybody that didn't have a good mom growing up who loved and kissed on them and made them cookies and stuff like that. No, everybody didn't have that. It can also show up, anger can also show up as obsessive compulsive disorder. I had an ex like that. He would complain about everything, but he wouldn't necessarily help. And that was very irritating. Like, why are you complaining? Just help me. Just do it. You're going to actually complain about why didn't I do it? That doesn't make logical sense. Unless it was like a scheduled, let's clean up type of thing. But that's not right. And he would complain about the littlest thing. Like, it was, if I took a piece of tissue and wiped my hand, there's nothing on it, but maybe my hand was wet or something, and I just wiped it off and I put it in he would have a fit because the tissue was in the toilet. People pay water bills. They don't always flush after. It's something, there's nothing there except a piece of tissue. But he would have a freaking fit. It was ridiculous. Now, again, I was paying a water bill. Flushing after it, just because there's a little piece of tissue, and it would be like one sheet. Come on, man. That's ridiculous. And that would turn into an argument because of his obsessive compulsive disorder. But, you know, his mom died when he was a young age. And, you know, he wasn't necessarily treated well growing up, according to him. And so, it showed up as anger. But, of course, he doesn't acknowledge that, right? It can also show up as attention deficit disorder. So those people who are really hyper, they can't sit down, they can't sit still, they always have to be doing something. And I like to do things, I like to go places, but it's that nervous energy because there's a fear there. And there's a lack of acknowledgement for the fact that they need to heal. Oppositional defiant disorder. People are very resistant. Some people get irritated. They have they're angry. They have a temper. We all know at least one person like that. They say it usually affects school-age children, but I'm not so sure about that. Bipolar disorder, those mood swings that people have. Some people naturally have mood swings. Like cancer is one sign that has mood swings naturally, depending on the phase of the mood. But if you say something to them and they don't comprehend what you're saying and they think you are trying to attack them or talk down to them, they become defensive. And so they feel like they need to attack back. And they're not necessarily one of the natural born leaders of the zodiac, but they will put themselves in position as if they are, but then the whole time they feel like they kind of have to fight for it. And that may or may not make sense, but they are very sensitive. And so they get offended easily. That's not really a trait of a natural born leader. That does not say that they cannot lead. That does not say that they are not leaders, because we had President Bush as president, right? He's a Cancer. But that's a whole nother story. But anyway, they're not one of the natural leaders is what I'm saying. And this is not to offend anybody. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. It is very important to comprehend, and I'm not trying to be sarcastic. So if you don't understand something, ask someone or look it up in a dictionary or Google it even, right? You don't have to get offended because of something that you don't understand when you have access to devices around you all the time. It's really not, you shouldn't do that. That doesn't make logical sense, right? Because again, I'm not attempting to be sarcastic or, offensive. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just describing the traits and characteristics of a particular sign. Does it apply to everybody? Maybe not. But there are some people who grew up in healthy households, so they don't have, like, when someone grows up in a healthy environment, they're more balanced. Their balance of masculine and feminine energy shows up in the world. When someone grows up in a single parent household and that parent is a female, there is a tendency for there to be more feminine traits and tendencies. If it's a male dominated household, there's a tendency to lean more toward the other side, unless he had females around her to show her, or unless the woman had men around her, like if she had brothers that could pick up and be role models and things of that nature, or if she was at least co-parenting and the father was actually there. but there's still an absence there or a void there because they're not together. That makes all the difference in the world. And I'm not sure why people don't acknowledge that. I know that there is a community of people, of women who, consider themselves feminists and say that they don't need a man, but that's usually because there was some type of hurt or pain experienced as a child. And that's just what it is, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. Intermittent explosive disorder. That's what I would call outbursts. When people have outbursts of anger, it's because they're angry. Sometimes they'll hold it in for a long time. Like, say there's a coworker that they don't like, and they'll hold it back. They may even gossip about that person. But then one day, this person just said that one thing, and they made me, nobody can make you do anything. Nobody can make you do anything. If you do something, you chose to do that thing. Nobody can make you do anything. There's no such thing as somebody made you do something. Even your parents can't make you do something. Because if you didn't want to do something and your parent told you to do it, guess what? You didn't do it. And if you got in trouble, you got in trouble. You took the spanking or the punishment or whatever. And again, if you still didn't want to do it again, you didn't do it again. If you didn't want to wash the dishes because you was playing a game or playing with your toys or on the phone, you didn't do it. And again, you suffered the consequences. Because plenty of people got spankings growing up, but that doesn't mean they listen to their parent. It doesn't mean that. And the ones who did listen because they got spanked, a lot of them, they become rebellious as adults, and those are some of the ones, because of their anger issues, they have a nasty house because they don't want to clean up, because they were forced to clean up when they were children. So they rebel after the fact. That is anger. That's a display of anger. Because it's that mindset of, and I don't have anybody telling me what to do anymore, so I can do whatever I want to do. Grief. It can show up also as shock, numbness, guilt, sadness, loneliness, and fear. It could occur after someone passes away. So, like, again, as a child, if your parent passes away when you're a young age, you don't know how to process those emotions. And again, most parents do not get counseling for their children. They just don't. After a divorce or a breakup, these things are traumatizing to children. Never mind the adults involved, people don't consider the children. After a loss of a job, sometimes the anger is directed at the person who passed away. Like, how could you leave me? That's that abandonment. That's that rejection showing up. Or blaming another person, like, it's your fault, or if I would have listened, this would have never happened, or if you didn't buy me this doll, that wouldn't have happened, or if you didn't buy me this action figure, that wouldn't have happened, or whatever it is. Or if we didn't need lights and a roof over our head, that wouldn't have happened. You never know how somebody processes that emotion, because how many people ask kids, how are you feeling? What are you thinking? After somebody passes away. Anger could also show up as high blood pressure, increased heart rate, tingling in the body. muscle tension, and of course in emotional ways, irritability, frustration, anxiety, rage, stress, of that overwhelming feeling, and guilt. The anger could be outward, where you're lashing out at people, or it could be internal. It could also be passive anger. And again, all these, when it's internal, it's that negative self-talk. It's those limiting beliefs. It's denial, right? It's not acknowledging that this thing even exists. It's a lack of accountability and responsibility. It's overcompensating with other things like food, weed, alcohol, coke, dope, whatever. And food is the worst addiction to have, because people have to eat. So when we're overeating and we're emotionally eating and we're gaining weight, we have this good feeling while we're eating, but then afterwards we feel bad because we've gained weight. And even those people who are skinny and can't gain weight, sometimes they just feel like their insides feel horrible. A lot of them, I've noticed, have diabetes and or high blood pressure. So even though they're skinny and they can't gain weight, their body still knows that they're not eating healthy. These type of people could be hermits, and they isolate themselves from people in the world. The person who's passive, that's that spiteful, vindictive person. And passive aggressive anger can be horrible, because a lot of people will seek revenge, but they'll make you think that, everything's fine. I know one of my friends who actually had another relationship with another man after her husband made her angry, and that went on for a long time. And she said she didn't realize that she was really trying to get revenge, because of something he did 20 years prior. I know another woman, when she was married, her husband cheated on her, and she would put bleach in his food, and she thought it was funny. And she said, "Oh, I didn't do anything to him but make him use the bathroom." That's kind of scary, because you don't know what people's mindsets are. You don't know what people are capable of doing. And these are some of the people who say that they love you. But everybody says that they love you and that they forgive you, don't necessarily forgive you. You need counseling. And of course, you don't have to listen to me. You can continue to deny it and say, "Oh, I turned out okay." But look at the relationships around you. Anger also shows up as sulking, having those pity parties, or sarcasm, right? That's a telltale sign of an angry person. And making snide remarks all the time. I have someone in my life, this is not someone romantic, so don't assume. I have someone in my life right now that's like that, and it's not a good feeling. Sometimes people are in positions of power, and if you say something to them, they will retaliate. They won't acknowledge the fact that they need help. Or they might acknowledge the fact that they need help, but they still got to get you back in the meantime. But they don't understand that these things are not okay. So ask yourself, do you have anger issues? Do you get angry often? Do you feel angry often? Does your anger sometimes get out of control? Does your anger impact your other relationships? Does your anger hurt other people? Are your anger issues causing you to say or do things you regret? Are you verbally or physically abusive? Verbal abuse is name calling, yelling at people, attacking people verbally, with insults, and, it's not cool. Even if somebody did it to you, did you like it when it was being done to you? Probably not. So then why are you now doing that to other people? As if it's okay, as if it's acceptable behavior, as if it's someone's way of showing you that they love you. Maybe that is that person's way of showing you that they loved you because they didn't know any better, because the same thing was done to them. But when you know better, you're supposed to do better. And so if it didn't feel good when it was done to you the first time, don't do it to other people. That's what I say. But you do what you want to do, of course. And let me know what you think. I appreciate your comments, your likes, your shares, and your subscribes. Do other things to redirect that anger. Yoga, Pilates, another form of exercise, or some type of relaxation, calisthenics, some type of somatic. Even they have the somatic exercises now. Get some type of behavioral therapy. I don't recommend medication, but do what you think is best for you. There are anger management classes in almost every city, and they're usually free a lot of times. For those of you who know, I am a Georgia certified anger management specialist and a master certified life coach. So a lot of states offer free anger management classes. Now, usually they give it to you after you've committed some type of offense, like you maybe were involved in a domestic violence dispute or something like that. So I'm not saying to get yourself in trouble in order to get free anger management, but it doesn't cost a lot. So instead of shopping and buying a bunch of food to fill those emotional voids, seek some help. There's help out there. And you can even do anger management exercises at home or join a support group. So if you don't join an anger management class, there are also support groups for people with anger issues. And again, I know people don't like to acknowledge it, especially when you call it an issue or a syndrome or a condition. People automatically get defensive, but it's only to help you. It's not to talk about you. It's not to make you feel bad. It's not to make you feel like something's wrong with you. It does not mean that something is wrong with you. It means that just like when you have a headache, you take an aspirin. When you have emotional and mental pain, you need to get help for it. That is all. That's all. That's all. That's it. That's it, and that's all. And sometimes the help that maybe you got help in the past and it didn't help you because maybe you didn't pick the right person, right? There's somebody for everybody. Sometimes men do better with men and sometimes women do better with women. But sometimes, especially for those who had an absent parent, right? Maybe if you had an absent parent, Maybe if you're a female, maybe you need to go to a guy if you had an absent father. Maybe if you're a male and your mom was absent, maybe you need to see a female. And like I know a lot of people, their parent may have been physically present, but emotionally distant. They may have been in the same household, but if that person was depressed and going through their own anger issues, they may not have been emotionally available to nurture you the correct way. This is not to say that they were a bad parent. Again, comprehension is important. To comprehend what someone is saying is very, very important. One has nothing to do with the other. We're dealing about with facts. The facts of how these things show up in your life and how they make you feel when there is some type of lack. Doesn't say that your parent didn't do the best that they possibly could. Because some parents think that making sure that food is in the house and the lights are on and the rent is paid is enough. But if again we consider those love languages, and I said this in another video, if we consider the love languages, words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, gifts, and acts of service, right? If just paying the bills and keeping a roof over your head, but you need physical touch or words of affirmation, unfortunately, that roof over your head is not going to do anything to fill the void that you're going to feel as an adult. It's not going to do anything for that. And then a lot of people wonder why they don't have successful relationships, because we allow the wrong people into our lives, right? We look for love in all the wrong places because we're still trying to fill that void, and we continue to attract that which we grew up seeing and experiencing, right? So if a parent was emotionally unavailable, we gravitate toward emotionally unavailable partners. This is a fact you can do your research about. I often say, do not just believe what I'm saying, do your research. You don't have to believe what I'm saying, but there is research out there to back up what I'm saying. This is not about nationality either, because a lot of people say, oh, well, it's because I'm a certain nationality and I grew up a certain way, so that means this, that, and the third. There's other people who are other nationalities that grew up the same way. Look at Eminem. So whether you grew up in the projects, a trailer park, in affordable housing, Section 8, whatever, it doesn't matter. You could have grown up in $1 million home. This is spiritual. This is emotional. This is mental. This is not about class. This is not about a specific income level or a specific sex. This can affect anybody. Look how many millionaires take themselves out of here because they're emotionally hurting. Money doesn't change that. Money can't change that. Just like that saying, money can't buy me love. Money cannot buy you relief from your abandonment issues or your fear of rejection or any other fears that you have because you didn't get what you needed. And even if you did get what you needed, there are people who, once they got to elementary school or high school, they were teased or picked on. So they started having emotional and mental issues because of that. Or their first relationship, they were cheated on. And so they started having emotional or mental, maybe they got married at 18, the husband or the wife cheated or had an outside baby or whatever the case may be. and it caused physical pain in their body or mental and emotional pain and stress in their life. So, you know, I don't think that it doesn't affect you, because it does. And again, acknowledging that is important. So, I'm going to bid you adieu. Um, as always, I love y'all. And this is one of the reasons why I share the things that I share. Because it's to help people. It's not to make anybody feel bad. That is not the purpose of my videos. It is to make people wake up and realize and acknowledge that these things are going on. Because if you continue to ignoring it is not going to fix it. It's not going to make it go away. Doesn't make it go away. Doesn't make it go away at all. Um, it really just shows up in a different way. And one of those ways is anger issues. And it can continue to go on. And, well into an old age. You know, you can leave here never having satisfied or healed or, one of the things is, I'm not sure that you've heard of inner child healing. Inner child, inner teenager, inner young adult, inner adolescent, whatever, whatever you need to do. But here's an exercise for you, right? Close your eyes and imagine yourself talking to that hurt child. That is you, right? Tell that child you are okay. And it is okay for you to grow up. You are safe now. You are loved. I love you. You could sit next to the person. You could put your arms around the person. You could, not the person, your inner child. Do it for at least 30 days. May sound crazy, may sound weird at first, but I promise you it helps. That's one of the things that I did for myself. Help heal that younger version of yourself that is still hurting from the pain and the hurt that was experienced. Stop using it as an excuse. Oh, because of how I grew up. Or you don't know what I've been through. Well, you don't know what I've been through. And you have permission to heal. You have permission to be a better person and to better yourself, regardless of what you experience 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago. Even 80, 90 years ago. That's just like the people who say, oh, well, I have 5 kids, because they don't want to put in the effort to lose weight. That's not an excuse. You don't have to keep that weight on you because you have, a certain amount of kids. If you are over 50 and your child is in their 20s or 30s, saying that it's baby fat is really not an excuse. And I'm not trying to be funny, but I hear people say that. I used to be one of those people back in the day, because I really believed that, because other people were saying that. But I realized that that was not true, because I've lost the weight. It had nothing to do with having no baby. Now, my stomach was flat enough. It wasn't 6-pack flat. No, because I didn't push myself, to keep going. But, you can get it flat, even if you have stretch marks. Again, you may still have some loose skin, but you can still have a flat stomach where people can't necessarily tell when you have clothes on, or if you wear, a panty girdle, it'll just be flat. It'll still like flat. You won't be able to tell that there's some loose skin there. So again, this is not an excuse. People just don't want to put in the effort, and people want to do what they want to do. They don't want to give up those comfort foods because that's what they're using to, fill those emotional voids instead of getting help. And again, this is not me trying to be funny. This is reality. Again, you can do research on exactly what I'm saying to confirm to yourself that I'm not trying to be offensive or sarcastic or any of those things. That's not what I'm doing right now. So if you're offended, perhaps that's because it's something within you that's being triggered, telling you that maybe that you need to listen because this is something that you could work on, and maybe it's something that you need to change. When somebody tells the truth and you're triggered, that's something for you to look at. Not for you to come in somebody's comments and say, oh, yeah, well, so and such and such. That's unfortunate that you feel that way. Now I'm being sarcastic. Because you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to laugh. Because you're proving the point. That is what anger looks like on social media. When somebody speaks the truth and you lash out at them because you don't want to receive the truth, it's cognitive dissonance. You don't want your illusions destroyed because you want to continue to do what you've always been doing. And you can. So what you should say is, oh, I don't care about what you're talking about. I'm going to still eat my cake, my ice cream, and whatever else. And you can do that. And it's fine. And if you want to black out on people and lash out at people, cuss people out, and you probably have other people around you who do the same thing to you, and y'all think it's okay, have at it. But some people don't want to be around people like that. I know there are a lot of men who feel like they are stuck with women who are like that, just angry, but they love them, so they stay, and that's fine. They feel obligated to stay, and they do, and that's fine. But they're not necessarily happy. And some people feel like you're not supposed to have a happy or healthy relationship, and people could do what they want to do. Everybody has to do what works for them. And so if being in a toxic situation is okay, so be it. If you would like to do something about it, seek help. So again, this message was intended to be helpful, and I hope that you got some good information from it. As always, love y'all. Later.